And Lamar Jackson, who was absolutely fantastic in their game against against Miami last week, Rob. 18 for 21, 321 yards passing. That was a season, or a second highest total of the season. 5 touchdowns, no picks, and a perfect passer rating, 158.3. So he had a fantastic job. So fantastic, Rob, that he pretty much locked up his second MVP. And by doing it, Rob, before the age or at the age that he is, 26 years old, he will become the youngest player ever to win 2 MVP awards. He turns 30 or 27 on January 27th. But I believe he'll still be the youngest ever to win 2. Rob G, double check that for me. But Rob, I do think, and I think he deserves it. I assume you were on board with that before the Miami game even started.
Yeah, I was on board, Chris. I thought he won the MVP. The performance against the 49ers, he solidified it for people who still were hanging on to maybe some other people, who still thought maybe, no, if he has a bad game against Miami,
well,
he
and
can
also
lose it.
Brock Purdy was horrible in that game too, so that helped him too.
Yeah,
because if Purdy had played well, you know what I mean, it might have been different. But yeah,
I know we didn't get to it, and I don't want to go backwards because this is what you're talking about is interesting to me. But real quick, I thought Brock Purdy like the biggest game, Chris, where everybody got a chance to see you play on that platform, Monday night, Christmas, you know what I mean, against the best team in the AFC, like everything that could be to finally put that to rest. Like had he played well in the 49ers role, Chris, and you saw it. They moved the ball in the first drive, right? They moved the ball easily.
Yeah, the interception.
And if they would have won that game, it would have changed how people looked at him on that stage against that defense and against that quarterback. And he wet the bed in the biggest game.
I don't think there's anything he can do but win the Super Bowl. That's going to get everybody to change. Because, Rob, yes, he was bad in that game. Phenomenal against Philadelphia. Phenomenal against Dallas. Phenomenal against Jacksonville. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those were 3. When they beat Dallas 42-10 and he threw for 4 touchdowns, no picks, and 250 some odd yards. I mean, that was one of the biggest games of the season at that point. Maybe the biggest to that point. Right, and then when he did it to Philadelphia, put 42 on them with 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. Like, I mean, you don't get any bigger than that. And I know Baltimore now, everybody feels like they're the best team in the league, as do I. But at those times when they beat Philadelphia, I believe, was 10-1. When they beat Dallas, Dallas had demolished everyone. Lost to Arizona, but had played terrifically.
But the only reason
I don't think he's played good in big games.
But the only thing I disagree with is that was for the MVP. Like, that was a moment, Chris, where had he played well or balled out, remember, they were 6.5-point favorites at home against a team that had to fly cross country. So if he would have shredded the Ravens defense that was giving up 15 points a game, beat the best team in the AFC, Christmas Day, put on 4 touchdowns, no picks, whatever it was, there would have been no denying this guy was the MVP is what I'm saying.
Well, he might. He probably would have become the MVP.
Okay, that's what I.
But I still don't think he would have. People still would have had questions. I mean, he was the front runner for the MVP anyway, right? And but as he was the front runner, Rob, don't you think? I mean, it was obvious. People still had doubts. We've talked about it before. I don't know. Like, I believe he's a good quarterback. I've never yet called him elite, even as I thought he was MVP. We've had MVPs who weren't elite. So that doesn't mean you can't win MVP if you have the best season. But I think people still had questions about him. And Rob, it's unfair. It seems unfair, but he may not be able to answer them unless they win a Super Bowl.
Well, I've always said that. I don't think it's fair, but I've said that to you, that every time he fails or like they don't win or whatever, remember, this team already went to the Super Bowl. If they don't get there, see, I knew we couldn't get there with him. If they don't win, Chris, see, Mr. Irrelevant ain't going to win no Super Bowl. We can't, we're wasting this team. I mean, that's going to be the conversation. If he has a game like not that terrible, but he doesn't play well.
But if he has a bad playoff game, right? Like 3 picks and they lose, he's going to get the blame.
It'll be all about him. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. So
well, that's a good point because that's actually a good segue into what Lamar. As we said, Lamar likely to win his second MVP, Rob. I feel like with this having 2 MVPs, I think Baltimore, and looking like the best team in the league, has demolished. Rob, they have demolished. Check this out. They played 4 division winners. San Francisco, Detroit, Jacksonville, and Miami. And they beaten them by an average of 25 points. If they get in the playoffs and lose the first game, now for them that would be the second round, but they lose the first game, people are going to, you talked about the conversation, we were talking about Brock Purdy. The conversation around Lamar will be great regular season quarterback. But can this guy win in the playoffs? I don't think he has to get to or win the Super Bowl to avoid that. But I do think, Robbie, I think he has to get to the conference finals. And if they lose, let's say he lost in the conference championship to Mahomes in Kansas City. I don't think people are going to be like, he's just a regular season quarterback, all that. I mean, Mahomes in Kansas City are Mahomes in Kansas City. Even in this bad season, they still got pedigree and they're champions. And I'm not predicting that. I got Baltimore going to the Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, I think if man, Peyton Manning faced it, and a lot of quarterbacks face it until they get it done. But I do think, Rob, with all his regular season accolades, that will be the conversation if they should lose their first playoff game.
I don't know. I know what people are expecting from him. Sure, I get that. And it would be a letdown if they lose, obviously, the first game they play. And it all depends because their defense is so good. I don't know. Does their defense give up 40 points? Is it going to be on him? You know what I mean?
That's very unlikely. But
no, I know. I'm just saying.
If he throws for 300, runs for a touchdown,
right,
throws for 3, and they get blasted,
then it won't be on him. But in this case, I think we got to be real careful because I really feel like this, Chris. He's about to do what we saw with the Joker, where people were saying, I really, Chris, believe he's going to be the Joker this year. Where people are questioning, regular season, all right, do all that. Right. You ain't got no success in the postseason. And he put on a postseason to remember, a historic postseason. That's what I feel about Lamar this year. I'm not selling wolf tickets. I'm not overdoing it, Chris. Right. I really believe like he's come of age. He's healthy. He doesn't have to run in every touchdown at the goal line. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to do any of that.
He hasn't run for a lot of touchdowns.
No, but that's why he got Edwards there, Chris. He don't have to do that. Why are you putting yourself in harm's way when you got a capable guy to run the ball in? He don't need to add up his stats. He doesn't.
Yep. No, I think that's a good observation about the Joker. I do feel like I'll say one difference between Lamar and the Joker in that analogy you made, which, again, is a good one. I don't think they're maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I don't doubt him. You don't doubt him. I don't know. I don't really feel like there are the doubters out there about Lamar like there are the Joker. There are some, obviously, because he's 1-3 in the playoffs. But I just feel like with the Joker, there was more doubt. But maybe like I said, there are those that don't think.
There were some people don't think, Chris, despite, like, even they look at his game and And he don't have the same numbers from the first year. The first year was just the first MVP. But this is a different Lamar. This is different.
Right. And he has thrown, he's thrown for more yards.
And let me tell you something.
He's thrown for 500 more yards.
He had more touchdowns throwing, right? He had more touchdowns.
Yeah, that year he had 36 touchdowns passes and 6 picks. This year he's got 24 TDs and 7 interceptions. And he's played one more game than he played that year, too.
Yeah, I see something. This is like taking a step forward. And you mentioned it. If that's the fact, you got that as a fact, right? That two MVPs, before age
Rob
20.
G, I think that is
if that's the case, Chris, that in itself, you put yourself in rarefied air. You're doing something that nobody's done in the NFL.
Just having 2 Super Bowls, too. I mean, 2 MVPs, period. Yeah. No, I'm with you, though. The thing I like, and I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts. Obviously, they're having a different type of season. But Lamar, man, when you hear him speak, it's just exactly what you want to hear. And Mahomes is the same way. I got no issues with the things Mahomes says. But Lamar, Rob, is like, people try to give him accolades, talk about the MVP. Oh, you guys are the number 1 seed. No, he is all about, we just got to stay focused and win the Super Bowl. That's all I want to do is win the Super Bowl. And he clearly is the leader of that team. And I think that resonates with his teammates, and they're not going to get cocky. Rob, now did you hear what OBJ said? OBJ said this was the best team he's ever played on. And obviously those Giants teams were nothing to write home about. But remember, he won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
Right.
And you know what? In 2021, I would agree with him, Rob. Those Rams were mediocre defensively, even as they had Aaron Donald and Von Miller. This Baltimore team is the best defensive team in the league. That team with the Rams was a top 10 offensive team. Ravens are a top 5. They're the best rushing team in the league. I'm talking about scoring points. They got the MVP. The Ravens did, or the Rams didn't. They had Matt Stafford at quarterback, who was good that year, but not the MVP. And Rob, remember the Rams, as many teams do when they win the Super Bowl, but they had some breaks. We talked about Jaquiski-Tartt dropping that interception for the Niners. It's a whole different story. That was huge,
Chris. It's a whole different story. It's unbelievable how a drop in a situation like that could have changed so many lives.
Oh, and so I do. Now, they got to win it, and they may not. If they don't win the Super Bowl, I guess you can't say they're better than the Rams were that year. But just as a team, I do think they are better, Rob, than that team.
No, I understand that too. And that team is because it's both sides of the ball. Like, what don't you like?
They don't have a
both
weakness.
Sides of the ball. What?
And OBJ actually, obviously had the great catch on Sunday on the sidelines. But
he's understated
he was
this
playing
whole year.
well. He was playing well like a month or so ago, really had a few big catches, then kind of went quiet. But I think, Rob, at this stage of his career, he is the type of guy that when the lights are on, he's just like he did with the Rams that year. Like, he can make a big play here or there. So I think OBJ is going to make some plays going forward. Obviously, Zay Flowers is their best receiver, but I think OBJ is going to make some plays going forward and be a factor. So